Princess Lady Diana, the woman the world can never forget. Before you scroll, stop for a moment. Imagine a princess who captured more hearts than any fairy tale ever written. A woman born not into power, but into compassion, who walked through royal palaces yet felt the cold walls of loneliness. This is not just a story of crowns and castles. This is the story of a young girl who became the most loved woman on earth and whose tragic end still echoes through generations. Stay with us till the very end of this video because once you hear her story, you'll never forget her. You're watching Princess Lady Diana forever. And if you love the Princess of Hearts, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell icon. Now, let's begin. A child born to change the world. It was a quiet summer morning, July 1st, 1961, when a baby girl was born at Park House, near the royal estate of Sandringham, England. No one could have imagined that this baby, named Diana Frances Spencer, would one day make the whole world cry. Diana was the fourth child of John Spencer, the eighth Earl Spencer, and Frances Roche. Her family already had deep ties with the British royal family. Her grandmothers had served as ladies-in-waiting to the Queen Mother. Yet, despite the noble background, Diana's childhood wasn't filled with fairy tale happiness. When she was just 6 years old, her parents' marriage began to collapse. Arguments, silence, and tears filled the Spencer home. Finally, her mother left, and Diana and her siblings were left under their father's custody. Those early scars of broken family love would shape the kind of woman she'd later become. One who understood pain deeply and never wanted anyone else to feel unloved. A dreamer with a gentle heart. Growing up, Diana was known not for her grades, but for her kindness. She loved children, animals, and helping others. At Riddlesworth Hall and later at West Heath School, she was quiet, shy, and often insecure. Yet everyone noticed her gentle nature. She loved ballet and dreamed of becoming a professional dancer. Teachers remembered her as a girl who always offered comfort to those crying in corners or struggling with studies. Little did they know, the same girl would one day comfort entire nations. When Diana was a teenager, her father inherited the title of Earl Spencer, and the family moved to the Grand Althorp estate. But Diana remained simple and down to earth. She worked as a nanny, dance instructor, and kindergarten assistant, living a modest life in London with her roommates. She wasn't chasing fame or fortune. Her only dream was to live a meaningful life, a wish that destiny was about to grant, but not in the way she imagined. The fateful meeting. It was during this time that she occasionally met Prince Charles, the heir to the British throne. At first, she was just a sweet, shy teenager, the younger sister of Sarah Spencer, who had briefly dated Charles. But destiny had its own script. In 1977, when Diana was 16, she met Charles again at a royal event. She later described it as a simple, almost ordinary moment, yet it would change her life forever. Charles found her innocence and kindness refreshing, far different from the world of formality he was used to. Soon, the media began to whisper, "Who is this shy young woman who has captured the prince's attention?" Diana's world was about to transform, from a quiet life in a London flat to the global spotlight of royal destiny. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Princess Lady Diana Forever, where we bring you the real stories behind the world's most beloved princess. The royal engagement and fairy tale wedding. By the late 1970s, the British media was obsessed with Prince Charles's love life. At 32 years old, he was the most eligible bachelor in the world, and the country was impatient to see him marry. In 1980, Charles and Diana met again at a friend's country weekend. She was just 19 years old, cheerful, innocent, and refreshingly unpretentious. Charles later said that her fun and laughter were what drew him in. She was unlike anyone else he knew. After a few private meetings and royal family dinners, Charles began to show interest. The press soon picked up on it, and Diana's life changed overnight. Paparazzi followed her everywhere, outside her apartment, her work, even when she went shopping. The shy young nursery teacher had suddenly become the most photographed woman in Britain. The proposal. In February 1981, Prince Charles proposed to Diana at Buckingham Palace. He didn't kneel. There were no roses, no candlelight. It was a quiet moment between two people living in completely different worlds. He asked her to be his wife. She said yes without a second thought, believing she had found love and destiny all in one. But when a reporter later asked Charles, "Are you in love?" he smiled awkwardly and said, "Whatever in love means." Those four words would haunt Diana for years to come. Still, the world only saw the magic, not the cracks. The engagement ring, a stunning 18-carat sapphire surrounded by 14 diamonds, became one of the most famous rings in history. The wedding of the century. On July 29, 1981, the world stopped to watch a fairy tale come alive. Over 750 million people across the globe tuned in to see Lady Diana Spencer walk down the aisle of St. Paul's Cathedral to marry Prince Charles. The streets of London overflowed with joy, flags, and flowers. Her wedding dress, designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel, was pure magic. Ivory silk, puffed sleeves, antique lace, and a 25-foot train that glided like a dream behind her. As she stepped out of the golden carriage, the crowd gasped. She looked like an angel, but inside, Diana was trembling. Her life was about to change forever, yet deep inside, she felt something was not right. When she reached the altar, she accidentally called her groom Philip Charles Arthur George instead of Charles Philip Arthur George. It was a nervous slip, but symbolic of the chaos her future held. Despite it all, when she said, "I do," the crowd roared, bells rang, and the world welcomed Princess Diana, the new Princess of Wales. Everyone believed the royal family had finally found its fairy tale. The princess and the people from the first day, Diana was unlike any royal before her. She didn't follow the stiff traditions of the palace. She followed her heart. She bent down to talk to children, hugged patients in hospitals, and shook hands with those no one else dared to touch. She was called the People's Princess long before it became her title. Crowds would gather wherever she went, chanting her name. Her warmth, her smile, and her vulnerability made people feel connected to her, as if she was one of them. But inside the palace walls, things were far from perfect. She was adjusting to royal duties, learning protocols, attending endless formal events, and living under constant media pressure. She was only 20 years old, newly married, and already carrying the weight of the monarchy on her shoulders. Shadows behind the smile. As months passed, the fairy tale began to fade. Diana noticed that her husband's heart seemed divided. He was often distant, distracted, and sometimes cold. She soon discovered that he was still emotionally attached to Camilla Parker Bowles, a woman he had loved long before Diana. It was a devastating realization. The marriage that the world believed to be a dream was, behind closed doors, full of pain and silence. Diana's insecurities deepened. She suffered from bulimia, a secret battle she would later speak about openly. She felt trapped, isolated, and misunderstood. I was crying out for help, she once said, but no one listened. Still, she continued to play her royal role with grace. To the world, she was the perfect princess, beautiful, elegant, and compassionate. But behind that dazzling smile was a woman breaking silently. A mother's love. When Diana gave birth to Prince William in 1982, she found new purpose. Becoming a mother brought her joy like nothing else ever had. She poured all her love into her sons, William and later Prince Harry, born in 1984. She wanted them to grow up as normal children, not as distant royals. She took them to theme parks, McDonald's, and even school drop offs, things no royal mother had ever done before. She once said, I want them to understand people's emotions, their insecurities, people's distress, and their hopes and dreams. Her sons became her world and her strongest reason to keep going. As the 1980s progressed, the royal marriage that had begun as a dream was now clearly falling apart. The tabloids, once obsessed with Diana's beauty, had begun to feed on her pain. Every expression, every tear, every silence became headlines. Behind the royal walls, Diana and Charles lived separate emotional lives. They appeared together for public duties, smiling for cameras, but those smiles were carefully rehearsed. Diana's diary entries and later interviews revealed how lonely she felt. There were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded, she famously said, a quiet storm in a single sentence. Her words shook the monarchy. For centuries, the royal family had lived behind a veil of silence. But Diana had broken that code by speaking her truth, even if it made the palace uncomfortable. By the early 1990s, Diana was no longer the shy girl who entered the palace. She had transformed into a confident, independent woman, elegant, emotional, and deeply human. She began attending events on her own, making her own speeches, and